Hello guys and welcome back to another Agito live video. This is Agito recorded from the future, and I just want to do this little quick intro real quick for this video because, as you can no doubt tell, this is a long one. This video is roughly almost an hour long. It goes really in depth on this guy's account because he's a returning / new player, but didn't really play at all back when they first started. So they really are like a new player. They know not nothing about the game, but they know very little about the game and ask for quite a bit of advice. And I decided to leave most of that advice actually in the account review so that it could help anybody else out there who is new or returning. I also would recommend that if you are returning to go watch my returner video, which I'll put a link somewhere on the screen or in the little exclamation thing or down below. Either way, this video has a lot of good information in it. Some of it's all my opinions for the most part, right? And some facts, but I think it has a lot of good information, and I think you should, if you're interested in learning more about some of the aspects of the game that you may have forgotten or you just don't think about, I would watch to at least the halfway point where we get into some of the details of fleet building and descriptions of gear and how to organize things, right? If you like that kind of stuff. If you don't, just enjoy the review for what it is, which is just some fun, right? Outside of that, this week I will also be streaming more Baldur's Gate 3, which means hopefully we will start putting those up on YouTube by next week as well. We're currently in the Underdark, so it's been a total blast playing that game. By the way, it's been an absolute blast. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. And I think that's going to be it for Agito Recorded. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, leave a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in a few seconds. Later. Hello YouTube and welcome to another Azure Lane account review. This time we're going to be looking at Grotcher or Groggy's account. They are a possibly 4 years ago downloaded the game player who's really only started playing 2 weeks ago. So we're going to be looking at their account. It's going to be account review, not an account roast. As you can see, they're only level 68. They were playing during the last UR event, so they were able to acquire Unzen, and they bought Unzen's skin, so they got some other gems left over here, so clearly not, possibly not free to play. But we'll see what we got going on here. Let's see another younger player's account. As always with account reviews, we start with looking at secretaries and move on to the dock and etc. Go on from there. So Unzen, Owari with no skin, and that's fine because Owari's pretty waifu just as she is. Let's be honest. An Oathed Belfast. Okay, I'll take it. I'll give you points for that one. That's a good choice. Oh, only 3 secretaries. Likely not progressed enough to have more. Oh, nope, you do have another slot. You just haven't filled it in yet. No problem. Oh, you renamed Unzen to Blossom. It's a good name. I like it. That's a good name. It's a pretty name. I like it. I've always liked that name. Just unlock it. Didn't even realize. Makes sense. Oh. Let's see. So collection 23%. That makes sense for a player who, like I said, may have installed the game 4 years ago, but didn't really start playing until 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? So that makes sense. No fleet power. Again, makes sense. Lieutenant PvP. So you are PvPing some. You are hitting the PvPs a little bit. I do want to ask, since you did download the game for the waifus, do you remember which character it was that made you download the game? That you saw or maybe heard about? Or something along those lines that made you download the game? Also, for reasons, because you didn't write something there, I have to write something there now. There you go. For PvP, I'd do it for rewards. Well, yeah, that's why you PvP. Honestly, the PvP in this game, for those who don't know, is not actually competitive or anything that is even remotely a good PvP system, but at all. It really doesn't matter. Anybody with a decent fleet can, take the time and reach the top rank and then walk away forever. Basically, you don't really need to reach it once just for this to say it. So it is what it is. There is some nuance to it, obviously, but if you want the nuance to it, go ask other other people about that because I don't focus on PvP. Go ask Azure Lane Meta. He knows all the PvP stuff. All right, let's look at this dock. Oh, actually, real quick, I see that you have the returner campaign. You have the returner campaign. So you started your voyage 22 10 19. So the year 22, no, the day 22 10 19. Maybe? No, 2022. At least that was the last time you had logged in before you started logging in again. 343 days, almost a year to the date. Almost a year to the date. Wow, because today is the 9th of October, so that's crazy. That's nuts. Awesome. You have been logging in every day. You are exactly on time. You're got all your points collected. Good job. Good job. I have to ask, did you watch my returner video for the game? Because I did do an entire video talking about the returner campaign for this game. So I am actually curious if you actually did watch that or not. If not, I understand, but I'm just kind of curious. I'm just kind of curious. See if it actually helped anybody. No, I just watched the ones recommended me. Fair enough. Fair enough. Mostly the account reviews and roasts. That's fair. That's fair. All right. Let's look at the oaths that you have already in place. You do YouTube content too? I do indeed. I do have a YouTube channel. Exclamation YT in chat. I'll get you the YouTube link. Or if you just go down below on the Twitch screen, it should be down there as well in the links. I think it's exclamation YT still. Yeah, there you go. Hey, you don't have a YouTube channel? I do. There you go. And if you over on the YouTube side are watching this on the YouTube side, I have a Twitch channel, so come on over here to Agito Live, twitch.tv/AgitoLive. So, all right, 3 oaths, 1 for Swiftsure, 1 for Unzen, and 1 for Belfast. Awesome. Actually, all really good choices. Oh, you did get the gun. That's good. Proper gearing. Cool. Generally speaking, Grot, the sonars are kind of unnecessary. You generally just don't need them. Like they are helpful and they are useful, and they do give you more ASW, more hit stat, more range. But generally speaking, you don't actually need them. So just as an aside, you don't usually need them. Now this is super good and should be leveled, and you should definitely use it. But generally speaking, you don't actually need the sonars. But you can use them. Something to keep in mind here with Belfast as well is Belfast's first skill is as HE. Increases her damage with HE by 19% and chance to ignite enemies. Which means for her main gun, you want a gun that says HE here. You want a gun that has high explosive ammo, not armor piercing ammo. So you'd want to equip a gun like this gun. Actually, this gun used to be known as the Belfast gun. It's called the Belfast gun specifically because it was so good on Belfast back in the day, back when people used Belfast a ton. So that is something to look into. In fact, I'll just go ahead and switch it there for you so you remember that. This gun would also, obviously, I don't think she can use that, but it would have been also good on her. But it's really good for her, obviously. So. And other than that, your gearing is good. Like the repair toolkits are super important. You're gonna want a lot of those. You're gonna want a lot over the course of the game. You're gonna want a lot of repair toolkits because a lot of characters need them, and sometimes it's just easier to leave them on the character so you don't have to switch them around. So. All right, so those are your oaths. Let's see what you have. Let's see what you actually have. Let's go by rarity. I'm not expecting to see a lot of high-level stuff, so that's why I'm just going to go by rarity for a moment. You are leveling your unicorn. That is good. Looks like you got the sexy sub, Surkov. Cool. Let's see. I'm just kind of curious what your favorites are. Okay. San Diego is definitely a character to look into leveling. Baltimore is a good character to level. North Carolina is a good character to level. Hood, Prince of Wales. You got Nagato as well. Okay. Ooh, you already unlocked St. Louis. Nice. Good for you. Good for you. Way to get best girl. This, for your information and for others' information, this was the first character in Azure Lane I ever saw. I don't know if I saw her in an advertisement, if I saw her on an image board, or where I saw her, but St. Louis was the character that made me want to play Azure Lane. So, just something to keep in mind is she was the character that made me want to play Azure Lane. Yes, 2 Alabamas. It happens. If you like, you can favorite the ships I should focus on for a bit. Sure. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind doing that at all. I see her leveling Svatskaya. She's actually really good. So Svatskaya, or I should say, Belarusia. Belarusia is like basically like a monarch equivalent. She's really good, and so leveling her is not a bad idea at all. Like you already have your subs you're working on, so obviously Swiftsure is a strong ship. Obviously you're already working on Unzen, which is an obvious. She's a UR ship. She's really good. Unicorn is, you're working on her, and you should definitely finish her retrofit. She is super good. She will help you clearing all your world content, all your PvE world content. San Diego is another ship that's, if you ever start to struggle with anti-air, usually around worlds like 11 through 13, specifically world 13, San Diego is going to be your friend, and you're going to want to do her retrofit as well, because she's going to rock. North Carolina will also help a lot there. You have 2 Alabamas here. One of them's level 12, one of them's level 9, so I guess it doesn't really matter which one you use. You know, one at level 12. You know, let's lock that one since it's technically slightly higher level. I don't know. Let's lock that one and favorite it, because Alabama is also much like Belarusia, will work for a mob boss or a mob flagship. Prince of Wales is someone, if you end up using a lot of Eagle Union, and HMS ships could be a possibility, but I'm not going to mark her. Honestly, unless you farm for Akagi and Kaga, Nagato is really not worth it. Or you get Shinano at some point, and then unlock Hakuryu. Helena as a meta ship is pretty good. Laffy is actually, like, really good destroyer if you end up leveling her up a lot. I already saw that you were working on Portland, I think I saw you were working on Portland. Yeah. Portland, really good early on. You already have her favorited. Yorktown. I always recommend people work on Yorktown as, like, a really good early game carrier for 2 reasons. So this is why I say Yorktown is an early game damage plus survival carrier. If she has Vengeance. So she recovers HP if she takes too much damage. And she then launches a special airstrike, which makes her really good as either a mob or even a boss flagship carrier if you don't have another option. And then she also increases the damage of your Vanguard by 15% when that's at level 10, right? So the max of the skill is actually more than that. So it's 25% HP back, and then 15% damage to your Vanguard. So I always say Yorktown is really good for early game players if you don't have other options yet. Saratoga, I believe, up until recently, still had the highest aviation in the entire game once you finish her retrofit, which again is a gold thing. So again, this is something you can work on later if you don't get other options or you don't like other characters in the future. And if you did level both of these and you did work on Helena and all that other stuff, then you could consider also leveling up your Prince of Wales, because of the Royal Alliance effect, which will increase all of their damage, basically. It'll give them a bunch of extra stats and all that stuff. So, something to consider. I think that's a good solid amount of Eagle ships. And the reason I'm focusing on the Eagle ships, honestly, and the supports for the Eagle ships, is because when it comes to regular PvE world content, so like World 1 through 14, Eagles are the best. You need like an HMS healer, and then after that, basically using Eagle ships is going to like make your experience better, because as on a whole, Eagle ships deal a really decent amount of damage and are very, they have high survivability. Whether it be zombie skills, whether it be multiple stacking skills for multiple fights like Alabama, whether it be lots of carrier buffs, which will help you in later worlds when there's a lot of when there is a lot of planes coming down on you. So those sorts of ships help out a lot, and those are like your trifectas, so to speak. You know, your San Diego, your Helena, and your Portland. Like those are like your staples, and these are just some of the staple ships to level. Now, obviously, if you find a ship that you like more than these ships, you can level them as well. Like, say you liked Illustrious a ton, you could level up her instead. I always say invest into your priority ships because they're all strong, and when you get to later versions of like Operation Siren and in events, you're going to be fighting a lot of sirens, and so their extra siren killer effects are really useful. So I will always recommend someone leveling St. Louis. I would also recommend that you... Eagle DD. I recommend that you level up... I'm going to lock this. That you level up and limit break these Fletcher class characters. So that would be either Fletcher... Charles Osborne, Aulic, one of these Foot, and a Spence. And the reason I say that is because you get a really cool item out of the mementos over here. Right here. See? Once you get to 17. So you basically need 17 stars between these 5 characters, which I just favorited all of them. Actually, Fletcher is not one of them. I take that back. Fletcher is not one of them. So unfavorite that. Anyways. So yeah, Spence, Charles, Aulic, Foot. Just those 3 can usually get you there. And then basically so that you can get this really cool item that... Can I see it? Thank you. It's a really cool item that gives you a bunch of A evasion and HP and increases the entire fleet's speed by 20%. And it's just a really, really good item to have. And you can only get 1 copy, so you might as well try and get it. Because you're gonna get, from just clearing maps, you're going to get multiple copies of these, so being able to limit break them is nice, and they'll just like casually level up, or you can level them up yourself, you know, on a maps or event maps or things along like low level event maps and things along those lines. Just something to look forward to in the future for that. That's the other thing, and that's something I would recommend as well, is when you get a chance, and this goes for anybody watching this on YouTube as well, if you're a newer player, or even if you're an older player and you just never thought about it, go into the collection here and look at what ships you need to level in order to unlock these different items, because there are gems in here. There's premium currency in here, right? If you limit break these ships, then you can get 50 premium currency, and eventually you can get an extra aviation item, which helps with like PvP stuff. You do this, you get an item, another character, gems, right? You get like collectibles, other characters, gems. So there's actually quite a bit of gems in the collection category. So that's something also, again, gems, and then eventually this item, which is really good for Eagle Union ships. So Downs Oklahoma Cassin for Pearl tiers, which can be useful both in PvP and PvE. So yeah, that's just something I recommend for like any player who is wanting to improve their account and improve the quality of like their ships, is that you go to the collection and you figure out what ships you want to level. And you don't have to do it like really fast or right away, and it's not something to like super hardcore focus on, like I gotta get it done now, but it's something to note as you're collecting characters and as you're like trying to free up space in your dock or what have you. So, and then other than that, my only other recommendation is find characters that you like, play with them, and see if you like them in actual combat. That way you know what to level and all that other stuff as well. So yeah, nice dock. You have some of the like, you have some characters in here that like right now you could probably, if you leveled them up and you focused on them, you could probably clear all the way to world 13. Do you have some fleet recommendations as well? Yes, sure. I can go through. I can recommend some stuff here. I mean, honestly, with what you have, let's put it this way. With what you have, which is somewhat limited, right? Your fleet compositions are obviously going to be limited as well. But as far as like synergies, if you want like synergistic compositions, let me just go ahead and just make one, make a couple, whatever. Honestly, it really doesn't matter at this point because you're still, what world are you on? Let me look at where you are right now on the maps. You're in 10-1, so you're gonna need, okay. So you're gonna want, honestly, I think Belarusia is better as the flagship. She has the heal. When the battle of the ship's greater, increase firepower, reduce burn damage, result damage towards 9% of the map. Yeah, she has a heal. So, Belarusia is your flagship, is better because she has a self heal, right? Because, and this is something to keep in mind, if your flagship dies, it doesn't matter if the rest of your fleet is alive, the whole battle ends, right? So you always want like your flagship to be a ship that can survive if it for some reason was to take extra hits or be focused, which in later content there are certain bosses that will hard focus your backline and specifically your flagship, especially in like World 14. So that can be an issue. Your entire front line needs to be wiped out for the fight to end. But if only your flagship dies, then the entire fight is over. So, and there's also something to consider when it comes to like barrages, if they're like frontal cone, if they're centered in the middle, that kind of stuff. But this is just knowledge you'll pick up over time. So this is supposed to be, and generally speaking, most people in this game, and including myself, ascribe to the idea of a mob fleet and a boss fleet, right? A mob fleet is basically the fleet that goes around killing all the other enemies on the map until the boss spawns, and then when the boss spawns, you switch to the other fleet, the boss fleet, and then kill the boss. So Zawari was good due to barrage. It's probably true. She probably has a frontal cone barrage, but here's the kicker, right? There's going to be a lot of overlap, right? You're going to have a lot of ships, some ships that are good as, you're going to have 2 ships that are good as flag. It's just a question of, do you want her as flag right now because you don't need the survivability, or do you want her as flag right now because you want the survivability? It really doesn't matter either way. I personally go toward survivability when it comes to my flagship over barrage centering because her barrage will still hit. Also, this gun is terrible. It might be the only one you have, I don't know, but it's terrible. You should just use this one instead. That gun is terrible. This gun is terrible, and the reason it's terrible, it's a 4-shot gun, and its spread is absolutely insane. Let me see if I can find out where it shows the spread. Yeah, spread range, okay? So this may not look like much of a difference, like 19 to 22, but because the 4 shells, it means the shells all like spread out more, which means they're less likely to hit the same target when you launch their shots, right? So this ends up doing more damage because it's more likely to hit the same target, which is usually what you're going for. So even though it has more firepower, even though it's gold, this gun is better. This is like your standard, the 406 MK6 is like your standard HE, every battleship can use this gun weapon, basically. So that'll be, you'll notice, trust me, it's actually a noticeable difference when you start using meta gear, effectively. Gear that is just better optimized. When it comes to fighters, as an example, generally speaking, you want to use fighters. Like, this fighter is okay, but you want to try to use fighters that at least have some bombs on them so that they get a little bit extra damage out of it, surface damage out of it. So, like, in this example, you probably want to use this Hellcat, this purple Hellcat instead, honestly. It's less aviation. I know that's, like, one of the things, and it's hard to, sometimes for players, the idea is like, oh, it's gold, it must be better. That is not always the case. Fleet CA and fleet increases fleet CA damage. Oh, okay, so you know what? You actually have a really good setup here. So you could actually do something like this with Saint Louis, Belfast. And you could do Unzen over here with, say, Swiftsure and Portland, if you wanted to. Something like this. And actually take Awari and put her over here. as the flagship for the boss fleet instead. Okay, you like Tosa, right? Tosa is also a good choice. Actually, over here is another like battleship if you want to use more battleships, which is fine in World 10 because you have a lot of suicide boats and on fire shit and all that stuff. Yeah, that could work. So like these are examples of like a boss fleet is what this is, and a mob fleet, which is what this is. So a mob fleet's job is to be able, like I said again, to clear all of the trash mobs before the boss spawns, which means they need to be able to survive and they need to be able to kill things relatively fast so you're not spending forever doing this, right? So you need ships that hit hard and fast, ships that help you survive, ships that do pretty decent damage but are also fast, a ship that can heal you, a ship that heals itself, and a ship that like stacks damage the more fights you go through, right? So this is why this fleet would kind of work. And the other reason you have her over here, as an example, is in your boss fleet, which is where you have a lot of your cross fleet barrages. As an example, Tosa has a barrage that basically when this fleet is fighting, she will fire a barrage in that fleet. Unzen has a similar effect of when this fleet is fighting, she will fire, I think she fires a barrage, and she also boosts HE damage, which, as I explained earlier, St. Louis has the augmented HE, right? She does more HE damage when she has an HE gun. And then Belfast, as I also explained earlier, has augmented damage she uses an HE gun. Now, I think it only affects CAs, so it won't affect Belfast. Unzen's buff won't affect Belfast. However, it'll still affect St. Louis. So, now, honestly, in a mob fleet, usually you want AP, but it doesn't really matter. It's fine. It'll still work. You can just put an AP gun on Laffy. But over here, then you have basically your boss fleet, which basically is a fleet designed to kill bosses. So your backline does high single target, kinds of damage, usually with carriers using converging torpedoes or battleships having like precise, lots of hit and precise hits and things along those lines, while your front line takes out a lot of the other stuff and survives, because you don't want them to die. That way you can dish out a bunch of damage. Portland is good for this because she gives a damage reduction to the entire fleet, the entire vanguard. Swiftsure is good for this because she gives an entire anti-air buff for the entire vanguard and I think the back line. And then Unzen obviously comes in as a little bit more damage for this front line with her torpedoes and her own guns and things along those lines. Then you obviously have the damage from Tosa, the damage from Owari, and her barrage to clear the enemies that are coming, and another carrier here in order to, one, give a little bit more defense to the front line so they can survive all the incoming damage from a boss, and then also a little bit of damage herself. So these are just bare bones examples of fleets that you could use on this account with what you have. I'm not saying these are the best, and I'm not saying that they will 100% work, but I'm pretty sure if you were to use these, you would find success more often than not. The reason I'm not picking ships like Ark Royal are because of RNG. What should he get in the future? There's a lot of Boonlands. Yeah, Boonlands come easy though to most people after a while. Anyways, as far as ships you should get in the future, you should look toward getting ships like, if you ever get ships like Perseus, if you ever get when we get to the priority ship research, I will talk about a little bit more about ships in there you should probably focus on for your fleets. If we ever get, any rerun, there is always going to be probably like 1 to 2 ships that you might want to do. I would say you definitely want ships that focus on your mob a little bit, either self-healing, maybe some better destroyers. Yudachi, you can farm Yudachi on, 6.2, I believe, which is a good destroyer. You're going to need destroyers for later worlds. You're going to need better carriers, so you're going to want carriers like Enterprise, Essex, Shinano, Hakuryu, any of those carriers, even carriers like Graf Zeppelin or Peter Strausser would work. It's carriers from the HMS, like, yeah, I'll get Enterprise from the rookie event. Yes, that's good. It'll take a while, but that's the plan. Yes, Enterprise to this day, I don't care what anybody says, is still one of the strongest carriers in the game. If she procs her buff more than twice, she will out damage ships like Hakuryu and Shinano and all that other stuff. It just doesn't, it doesn't always work out like that. So, but if she procs and she's got the gear, she's going to out damage them. Double damage is good. I just want to throw that out there, okay? Double damage, good. Double damage is good. All right. Let's go ahead and look at your depot so I can talk about other stuff real quick. All right, your first and only Valentine so far was Swiftsure. Good choice. Good choice. Good choice. You got a promise ring rating. You got a promise ring rating. You have a promise ring in the waiting. There you go. Low amount of cog chips, but like so you've only been playing for like 2 weeks. So I mean, what else is there really? You know what I'm saying? Okay, books. This decent cube count. Combat data. As you get this, do not use this to get experience. It is so much better to analyze it and then use it in the proto shop to either get to use it in this proto shop to get either UR gear or some of the gear from like older priorities that you don't have yet. I may or not have used it on St. Louis. You know what? I'm gonna let that pass. I'm gonna let that slide because St. Louis is really freaking good. Like really, I mean, she's not really freaking good. I like St. Louis a lot, so I'm okay. I'm gonna let it slide because of that. But basically, don't use it for the experience. You can grind the experience. Like you will grind that experience out easy. That is like the easiest thing to do is grind out experience in the game. It is not worth that unless you immediately want the ship right now. But you got to realize that at that point you could have gotten better gear, and gear is the biggest bottleneck in this game for any player, no matter who you are. If you're an old player or a new player, gear will always be like the biggest bottleneck. Getting more gear so that your characters can do what you want. And it doesn't matter if you're a meta player or a waifu player. You want better gear for your waifus and your meta ships. So we're all equal on this one, right? So that's something to consider is don't use that for experience. Make sure you analyze it into protocores and then use those protocores to make an educated choice on which UR gear you want, usually based on how close you are to finishing any of them, basically. Like if you were close to finishing this one and you needed 3 more, it's better to go grab that if it was in there or something along those lines. I don't think I was in there yet, but that's my point. So I think you just unlocked Operation Siren, so make sure you're doing your Operation Siren to start getting all these materials so you can craft gear. Generally speaking, you want to save your high efficiencies for like events because it also doubles the event points you get, so you have to grind less. Core data, make sure you're doing your hard modes. Okay, cool. I mean, this looks like a new player doc, so nothing in here is surprising, right? But nothing in here is like, why have you done this? Holy shit, you've already ruined your account, so you're good. You're good. Gear. Now, obviously, you went and got the UR gear from the shop when it was out. Good. Good. Unfortunately, when it comes... So, I think planes are the most confusing part to most players because you'd think that this is really good, but it's not. Like, this Dive Bomber is not as good as the purple Dive Bomber. Helldivers, basically... Until you can upgrade them to experimental Helldivers are gonna, or you get a Tenrai, Helldivers are the best dive bomber in the game. You will want more of these than any other plane type in the game because they are that good. These are really good AA guns. You definitely want more of these. Don't do this. I say this in almost every single one of my account reviews now, and I know you're new, so it's fine. Once you get a thing to level 10, don't take it to level 11 or level 12 unless you can also then take it to level 13. Yeah. It was a return event. I had to do it. You didn't, actually. If you had watched my returner video, you would know that you actually don't have to do that one to get all the points and to get all the stuff. You can actually skip that mission. So just for anybody who's wondering out there, if you want more information, if you want, to make sure you get to maximize your returner, you don't actually have to waste the resources and you can, you can just leave it. Just saying. Plus it just looks bad at only plus 11. It's not plus 13. It just looks bad. But with that said, on your other gear, make sure you're sure before you start leveling something up to plus 13. Especially when your materials are limited. These are fine. These are really useful early on because for the hit and firepower on your battleships. These are like your best torpedo types until you get the gold versions of them. You can basically use whatever torpedoes you want. Torpedo differences don't really matter as much. However, the magnetic ones are obviously better because, well, they're magnetic. They auto-target. They're more likely to hit than any other type of torpedo because they're going to go toward the target rather than just go off willy-nilly to the left, basically. So you ain't got to worry about it. A good piece of gear to look at when you're a new player are these naval camouflages for evasion and HP, because evasion stats are hard to come by and they're really good on light cruisers, heavy cruisers, and some destroyers. Same with the hydraulic steering gear. Evasion, HP, also really good on heavy cruisers, light cruisers, and some destroyers. Super, super good. A lot of people swear by fire suppressors. I think it's pointless, but if you want to use them while you're in World 9 and 10, you can. But honestly, I just think it's a waste of time. Just why bother? Rarity. Okay. So in the future, definitely make more of these. As you collect them, these are like the gear like look out for. These Rio says to look out for. Steam catapults. Never built this gun right here. This gun right here. Never build it. Never upgrade it. Never use it. It is terrible. Do not listen to people. They are trying to troll you when they tell you you should level it up. It is terrible. Yes, this is the Beehive gun. I'm glad you know this. Good. Do not use it. If you're watching on YouTube, do not use this gun. It's terrible. He's ass in every way. Okay. High performance, high standard radar. I heard it's quite good. Damn. Well, I tried. You see it. You saw it here first, folks. You saw it here first. I tried to help somebody, and they immediately rejected my offer of information. So I can't help everybody. I can't help stupid. It is what it is. It is what it is. Very good AP gun. Very good anti-air gun. Good destroyer gun. Good anti-air gun for crafting into the higher one. Good AP gun. You're going to want a lot of these in the future as you get them. You can basically get them in any priority, so it's fine. These are great on battleships. Helldivers, Helldivers, Helldivers. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I would not worry about augments at all till you are fully kitted out in other ways. I would not even bother crafting augments because they cost too much gold at your current state. Honestly, you want to level up gear first before you start working on augments, because frankly, none of the since augments were released, nothing in the game was released that made it be like you got to have the extra sword mechanics, you got to have the extra mechanics from the augments. Nothing, not a damn thing. So they are useful and they're fun and they're kind of cool. The sword effects, like the little slash effects, are cool, but they're not necessary by like any stretch of the imagination. Now, the special augments for specific characters are really useful because they change how characters work, but that only matters if you use one of those characters and you feel like you need the item. This is like where I'd recommend spending like gems if you've got them, is fully unlocking this and then unlocking the second floor as well. For farming purposes, that's where I would, and for playing just generally like mood things, if you plan to play the game for more than a few hours a day or whatever, I would highly recommend you at the bare minimum unlock this. What's the second floor for? So the second floor, if you look here at the bottom screen right now on the HMS account, the second floor gives you as many slots as you have on the first floor. It's the exact, it just mirrors it. You don't have to buy more. As soon as you unlock the second floor, it gives you the exact same amount of pieces. But this floor, instead of giving experience, it greatly improves the morale recovery of your ships, which means this number right here recovers faster. Now, in the regular training dorm, it recovers in there as well, up to 150. And then in the second one, in the rest dorm, it'll also recover up to 150, but faster, like a lot faster. It takes like a couple of hours, basically, for it to fully recover. And that's actually the only way to get a character to go above 119 is to put them in either the training dorm or the rest dorm. Otherwise, characters will recover morale up to 119, but they have to be in the training dorm or the rest dorm to actually go above that to 150. And when they're at 120 or 125 and higher, and they get the little shiny on there, you see how this is like, You see how like on Portland here it's shinier? See how on Portland here it's shinier right here? And you see how on hers right there on the 119 it's just regular green? The shinier means that you gain more experience. You got an experience bonus right now because it's above 120. So as long as their mood is above 120, they're getting a little bit more experience. So while you're doing that, you will have more experience. Yes, there's a sort by morale here. I believe that was recently added within the last year. They've added a lot of sort options to the sorting system and a search system. So maybe I should get that. I highly recommend the dorm. Like the dorm is the only thing in the game that I think every player should invest into, because the return on investment is very much like worth it. Like it's never really not going to be worth it. Even if you just expand the first half of the dorm for the experience on multiple ships. A ship that is at 100 affinity gets plus 6% stats, right? A ship that is oathed gets plus 9% stats. A ship that is oathed at 200 affinity, like it gets all the way to 200, you get this all the way up to 200 affinity, has 12% stats. So yes. Rings are basically the only actual form of buying power in the game, because it technically allows you to get 3% more stats on the character. Or 6% more stats on the character. It basically doubles the affinity stat increase, because normally it's just 6% at 100, which you can get to on every ship. But when you oath them, it gives them 3% more, and then it allows you to go another 100 to get that 12%. I'm gonna open the cat box here, but I'm only gonna say one. I'm not even gonna look at them. I'm just gonna say this: do not worry about your cats at all when you are a new player. Till you have literally nothing else to worry about in the game. They do not matter in any way, shape, or form. Just grab random ones, put them on your fleets. If they give buffs, cool. If they don't fucking worry about it. They don't matter. Until you have gold for days and gold to spare and all the other characters and things that you want in the game, cats do not matter. They are the last thing for you to concern yourself with in this game. Period. Make sure you do your stuff here and all this. Unlock your tech. Honestly, my recommendation when unlocking guild tech is make sure you unlock your dock slots first, because that's basically gems. It's effectively buying you're buying gems with guild currency and all that stuff, but only once you actually can afford it. Otherwise, you should just be, unlocking your guild stuff. In fact, you should be doing this every time. And don't forget to refresh this every time as well. It only costs 50 guild tokens. Make sure you do this every 3 days. Buy all your gear. Buy your prints. Buy your purple prints. Buy your food. Buy gold boxes if they're in here. Don't worry about the characters so much, and then make sure you refresh. And then do it again. Guild store isn't every 3 days. It's every Monday and Friday. Okay, well, whatever. It basically refreshes every 3 days. Whatever. Every Monday and Friday, make sure you do that. Yep, still in story. Okay. Well, my recommendation is make sure you start clearing this as often as possible. And make sure you, catch back up, because you get a lot of prints and crafting materials out of here for your gear. So it is something that you definitely want to be able to focus on. The lab? What about the lab? Oh, that's right. We didn't look at your priority. Yes, shipyard. I forgot about that. I almost forgot. Just completely skipped my mind. All right. So for priority 1, the primary ships that you want to unlock out of here are Monarch and Rune. They are both very strong, still very viable ships that can fill in spots that you may not have access to, like a frontline tank and damage dealer, or a backline strong battleship that has a self-heal, a strong AP barrage, and just generally good stats. Monarch is like the standard of battleships, basically. She's very good. She is my favorite ship in the game, and I highly recommend her. Basically, you don't really need Neptune. She's super outclassed by a lot of other things. Ibuki is irrelevant, and Izumo, if you like her, sure. Otherwise, she's basically irrelevant as well. PR2, Georgia, Seattle, Azuma, FDG, and Kitakaze are all very strong. Very, very strong ships. Honestly, Gascon is still also Rune Music, so Rune isn't a higher priority, I'd say. I disagree for a new player, because Rune Muse costs you 1,500 of the core data, right? or data coins or whatever it is, right? I strongly disagree about that. If you're a new player, spending 1,500 on Rune, not worth it. On Rune Muse, not worth it. Because you would rather get the gear out of there. Again, gear is king. Gear is more important than characters a lot of the time. So spending 1,500 on 1,500 or 1,400 on Rune means you missed out on 2 shells, or you missed out on some cog chips or cog arrays or something along those lines. So unless you can like risk the aforementioned, I would say that getting regular Rune is still worth it more than getting Rune Muse. Even though Rune Muse is stronger, the cost is a lot higher. Anyways, Gascon is good as well. Like basically PR2, you can't go wrong in PR2, but you can use gold to level any of these. So as soon as you can start farming gold, you can get any of them as high as you want, as fast as you want. Basically, they're all good. They're all strong. They're all viable in team comps and in different stages of the game, and they're all good. PR2 is probably priority 2 ships are probably the most solid across the board in terms of like they're just generally good ships, every single one of them. Like you could slot them almost anywhere. PR3, I would say that also another set of fairly strong ships. Cheshire is really good. She doesn't really need her Fate Sim to be good. She has extra AA guns. She is just generally okay damage. She's very tanky. If you're an HMS fan, she's literally the one of 2 like heavy cruisers that you can actually really use for them. Drake is strong, but really needs her Fate Sim to be like really viable. Mines is good, but I always feel like she's just really underwhelming personally. And then Odin is really good, especially in later maps, especially if you get her Fate Sim 5, because she can do double barrages, and she's good anti-sub, and she has a cool mechanic where she like sits in the middle of the party and like does extra stuff. And then Champagne is kind of an off. Champagne requires her Fate Sim 5 to be viable, because then she becomes an off flag ship. Otherwise, she requires flag in order to like have her barrage be angled correctly. But yeah, this is like a mixed bag. Is PR3. And then PR4 is basically just 4 really strong ships that at least one of them requires Fate Sim 5 though. So Anchorage is the second strongest frontline ship in the game as far as of like tankiness and like survivability and like still having good damage. Aegir is the strongest frontline ship in terms of like tankiness and damage and all that shit, and as far as like heavy class ships. Hakuryu is, depending on who you ask, the second or the strongest carrier in the game. AVP, once you get her Fate Sim, is arguably like the 3rd or 4th strongest carrier in the game. And then Marco Polo turns out to be a really good mob ship, but is probably the most underwhelming of all of them. But she's also the only priority ship, the only gold priority ship that actually has a cross fleet. She's not the first gold ship to have a cross fleet. That actually goes to Tosa, but she does have a cross fleet barrage, which can be useful. Cross fleet, the name of the game these days is like cross fleet buffs, basically ships that buff not only their fleet, but the other fleets in the operations and in your world maps. And then PR5 is 2 really busted ships, and then 3 ships that are okay, but frankly, in my opinion, super uninteresting, which is Brest, Choklov, and Prince Rupert, which they're pretty just uninteresting to me. Rupert is like the only Ironblood healing ship if you get her Fate Sim 5, so that's something to think about. But Plymouth is quite possibly one of the most busted characters to be released in this game, and Harbin is also very, very, very strong and also super busted, and just she's cool. Also, she's really freaking cool. I like Harbin a lot. PR6, I don't like Kearsarge's design because the pastel kind of bothers me, but I also like the design because it's like a Siren-esque design. Anyways, she's the first BBV of any kind of actual like skill or ability outside of anyways, there's one other. Hyuga, thank you. Hyuga Retrofit, yes. Not Issei. Issei is Hugo Retrofit. So until Hugo Retrofit, she's like been the only one that's like okay, basically. So she's strong. Shimanto, strong, I think, from what I understand. I actually haven't really paid attention. Apparently, Felix Schultz is really strong. And then Hindenburg, I've heard is good, and I've not heard anything on Flandre. I actually haven't really heard a lot on PR6 yet, but that's because I don't think a lot of people have like finished them yet. So either way, for research purposes, for like your research academy, for like what you should be researching, you're going to want to research either PR4, PR5, or PR6. And the reason I say any of those three is PR1, 2, and 3, you can basically use gold to get their levels, right? So you can be working on them, right? You can basically be like, I'm going to work on unlocking Monarch, but I'm going to be researching PR6, right? So that when I finally go to unlock, say, Shimanto, I have some plans to level her up, which will, while you are leveling and unlocking Monarch, you can then just use gold to finish her off later. So, and in PR4, 5, and 6, you have really good gear, basically. You have the high performance hydraulic steering gear, you have the high performance fire control radars, you have the sextuple Bofors, you have the twin 14s, you have the champagne gun in PR3, you have this gun in PR3. So PR3 in terms of gear, really good. The Drake gun, kind of okay, not the greatest. In PR5, you have the hydraulics, you have the twins, and you have this, and you have this, which are pretty good. And then you have the Plymouth gun, which is really good. And then these are all kind of okay weapons. And then I don't have something here to... Oh, don't do these. Don't do basic researches. Okay, I already see you have 2 of them on here. So basic research, even at gold tier, is not the greatest. And especially for PR1, that's such a waste of your time. The time frame for what you get out of them is generally not worth it. So what you want to focus on are faces, like, and what I mean by faces is where you see the character, which means you're guaranteed to get prints for that character, which is why, again, because you can get all of the research prints for PR 1 through 3, so 1, 2, and 3 through gold. Researching those ones is a waste of time because you can just spend gold to do that. You'd rather do research 4, 5, or 6. And then obviously on the catch-up mechanics, just whatever you want, just catch up. Select them and catch up. For the regular ones, you're limited by like it says here, right? You have 300 to select between these 4 or all 5 or all 6 of these characters. But for like once you get to PR2, it separates them. So the normal ones, the normal priority, it's 300 between any of these 4. And then for these, it's 150 individually. So you can just do whatever you want. But I would research focus PR 4, 5, or 6, basically, is what I would do. Unless you're not touching the game in like 3 or 4 days, so they are not a good idea. Yes, if you're not going to touch the game for like a few days, then doing a 12-hour research is fine because obviously you're not going to be logging in for 12 hours. So you might as well get something out of it, right? That way you're always researching something. The new research mechanic is way better. It was way worse than this before, so it's a lot better. And don't worry, like you will unlock most of them eventually. It's just a time thing. It's just a time thing. So, is there any other questions? Anything else you'd like me to look at on your account? I think so. Thank you very much for taking the time. No problem. Thank you very much for allowing me to review your account. I appreciate the content. I appreciate you asking questions, and I like helping people. So, with that in mind, YouTube, that is going to be the end of this account review for Groggy Grotster's account. If you like this type of content and you want to see more of this content, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe, and then come on and join us over at twitch.tv/AgitoLive, where maybe you can get your account reviewed and also end up on YouTube and be like, I'm famous or something, kind of. Not really, but you know. Anyways, or comment below if you'd like to see more of these and all that jazz. That's gonna be it for this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.